Well, today is a little bit of an interesting episode. So, first and foremost, Savannah is our guest, and she's amazing, and the content is so good. And the hardest part with this episode, for some reason, my audio didn't get recorded. So, I only have Savannah's voice and her answers recorded, and for some reason, my side of the conversation didn't happen. So today I'm also trying out this AI voice insertion that Riverside uses. So my voice is being input in parts where I ask questions from AI, and you can kind of tell it's not quite as dynamic. I wouldn't say I'm a dynamic person, but it's not quite as dynamic as a normal person's voice, but I thought it would be a good opportunity to insert those questions because Savannah's content is so good. I would just hate for us to not be able to have this episode go live. So I apologize for all the weird technical issues on this episode. Hopefully the questions and everything makes sense, but Savannah's content is so good. She talks about content calendars, and I love the way she looks at it. So I hope everyone enjoys, and I apologize for the weird AI insertions of the questions. But again, Savannah, thank you so much for your insights today.
Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Savannah. Savannah, welcome to the show. Savannah, before we dive into the conversation today, we always ask all of our guests, let us get to know you, let us get to know your background, work history, things like that. And then on top of that, why do you love content and marketing?
Sure. I love marketing because my job changes every day. The industry is always changing. How people digest information is constantly changing. So no 2 days look alike. No marketing plan that I put together at the beginning of the year stays the same. And it's really fun engaging with people. I've worked in marketing for almost 20 years now, with the last 10 of those being in leadership roles. I'm currently the VP of Marketing at Purpose Legal, a B2B legal services organization. I manage all of our thought leadership and content creation, and then the appropriate channels and strategy of promotion of said content.
Well, for today's subject, we're going to talk about content calendars. Savannah, you have some really great insights about content calendars, but first and foremost, why are they important and how do we use them?
Content is king. I think we all know that. And content is how we communicate with our audience, how we educate them, resonate with them, interact with them. And a lot of times I see marketers kind of just creating content and throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticks, which can work in the sense that you will learn what works and what doesn't and what your audience has an appetite for. But having a calendar kind of fits hand in hand with having a strategy, and it allows you to see not only what's working, but aligning those efforts with your business goals. And honestly, it just alleviates the stress and headache and kind of guesswork out of content creation.
How do you go about aligning a content calendar with business goals?
So when you're working with your leadership team or whoever it is that's kind of driving the business to determine what the overall business goals are, it's really, really helpful and instrumental in building that calendar. I mean, I do this quarterly so that we have time to pivot, but any cadence really works, whatever works for your particular organization. So for example, in my business, which is service-based, we have certain services that can be a one-time large piece of revenue and others that are smaller month-over-month chunks of revenue. And obviously those are both valuable to driving business, but depending on where the economy is or where we need to grow our business for scalability, whether we're trying to bring on new employees or whatever it looks like, we may need to focus our bandwidth from marketing and content on one more than the other. And that content can really be instrumental in driving revenue. Similarly, when we evaluate market trends, such as, for us, like an interest in AI, we may want to support our expertise in that area, our purchase service that supports the way that the industry is moving. So it's important, I think, especially with smaller marketing teams with maybe limited resources, that you're aligning your content and your calendar to support those business goals so that you're pushing out something that's both valuable to your target audience and supporting your company's growth goals.
That's awesome. I like that a lot. What are the key types of content to include in a successful marketing calendar?
Yeah, so once you know your company's goals and you know what you want to be talking about and where you want to be driving, your audience and educating them on. The most important thing to look at when you're looking at your calendar, and again, like I said, I do mine 3 months out, and then we reevaluate it in quarterly segments. But when you're looking at it, I think you want to think about providing value to the consumer within your content. And successful marketing content on a calendar generally falls into 3 main content pillars, and you'll want to use your calendar to spread these out evenly. I follow the tried and true educate, so sharing valuable information that your audience is interested in, and then entertain, content that is funny or interesting and really helps you resonate with your audience. And then relate, showing that your audience, that you really understand their struggles and that you're there to help them through it, kind of like a friend. So again, for my industry, B2B selling services, we may educate by writing a blog on a recent trend to give more information that helps them in their day-to-day business practices, but isn't necessarily selling anything to them, just really purely educational. And then entertaining, maybe a picture of us at a conference, interacting with our clients, or even like an industry meme that kind of pokes fun of the business that everyone would understand and kind of join in on that laugh. And then content that can help relate could be like a case study showing that we've worked with common business problems that they're experiencing and that we know how to solve that issue, or sharing a free resource like an ROI calculator or a business checklist to show that we really understand their problems. Kind of looking at it holistically and breaking it up into different pillars and making sure that you've spread that content out so you're not front loading a ton of education, which can get boring, or too much entertainment, which then can make you not be taken as seriously. Just spreading that out so that there's several different types of value add content across whatever your calendar cadence looks like.
Awesome. So let's get a little tactical here. What are you using to actually make your content calendars?
Yeah, so they're obviously going to be living documents, and I tell that to everybody that I work with. As you see certain trends or a piece of content really take off, they're going to be malleable, but I try to put as much detail in as possible, knowing that I also have to build in some flexibility. So you want an organized, transparent, and customizable way to build your calendar. I'm super old school and I work on a really small team, so I use Excel. So I have a column for the type of content, the pillar that it falls under, a deadline for creation, a published date, how you're going to promote it, whether it's social, email, what have you, links for the published links, analytics on how it performed, who else is going to touch it, who needs to verify it. So I keep it as detailed as possible, knowing that, last minute, that author might change. But the more detail we can put in, the more likely we're to follow through with what sits on the calendar.
Yeah, I love that. Things are always changing. So what's your approach to building a content calendar that's both detailed and flexible for when things may change?
Unexpected happenings changing your calendar is very, very common, as well as just bandwidth of the authors or the people that you're working with to create that. For my company, where a lot of the thought leaders who provide marketing with content also have their day jobs and billable client work, bandwidth is an issue. So, and then we have obviously an ever-changing life cycle of news. So you have to build that flexibility in for those type of times. Whether it be having more entertainment pieces to fill the space that still add value, but that you can switch out, or bringing in ghostwriters to take off some of the workload. They're also instrumental when something comes up out of nowhere, and having the right people to write it might not be at your disposal. So having a lot of really good ghostwriters kind of on your record that you can call on at any time. So if in my industry, a cyber attack may happen where we feel like we need to get our 2 cents in, not only to stay relevant, but also to educate our clients and target audience on how to handle that or how that may impact their business. You have to be ready to pivot that calendar and accommodate to your audience's needs. So sometimes I can look at a news cycle ahead of time and say, hey, there's a bunch of trends emerging that are going to just shock us out of nowhere. So I'll build in free space and then just move things around when I need to. Or like I mentioned earlier, having more of those fun pieces built in so you can replace them when valuable content becomes more of a priority. So for example, a former company I was with would do industry-focused word searches on LinkedIn, which were kind of silly, but they were there to provide more of a break in the day and some fun content in an industry that can be very technical. So when we'd have something break, those were really easy to replace when we needed to pen an amazing or very timely article And we found that those fluffer pieces served a purpose, but no one really missed them when they were replaced with something of value or urgency.
That's awesome. So how do you know what to include in your content calendar? And with that, how does data play a role?
Yeah, I mean, your content calendar should be 100% data driven, and that's hard in marketing because, short TikTok-esque videos could be all the rage for 6 months. So you plan a whole calendar for them and then they lose traction, and now it's how-to guides. And so you've got to be able to pivot. But I think the most important piece of having a content calendar is evaluating the data. You have to know what's performing and what isn't and be ready to pivot. So if one piece does extremely well, you want to look at what isn't performing and either reuse the strategy that is working. And so if you have a bunch of blog posts, but your videos are doing well, how can you turn those planned blog posts now into videos? A certain subject may take off, but only on video. Blog posts may do well. So now you want to create a webinar series for it. So you've got to clear some space on that calendar to dig deeper into a topic that's really resonating. So like I said, these calendars are living documents, because if something takes off and you see that your audience has a real appetite for it, you want to feed that appetite. I schedule time in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I've got about a half hour to go look at the data analytics of all of my pieces and see what's working, which target audiences are reading it. So if a certain piece is only working for a small segment, we want to keep creating it for them, but how much bandwidth do we want to dedicate to it if it's for a smaller niche within our audience? My advice there is just be ready to be flexible with scheduling time to really dig deep and seeing what's working and to who.
Do you mind sharing some details that actually go into your content calendars? And with that, how about what tools you like to use for building your calendars in?
I have columns for, which titles are reading it, which mediums are they digesting it on. So is LinkedIn the best place for this, or is it YouTube videos, or is it just direct to our website? I have columns for all of that, so I can do reporting on it. Then I can just send that content calendar to the entire leadership team, and not only can they see what's coming up, but kind of be reminded of what the calendar looks like, and they can say, hey, can we actually sub this out because this piece is doing so well with these target audiences? But it just keeps it all in one place, and then we can look at how any one piece performed all in one spot. But there are a lot of other tools. I have a really small team, and I don't have a lot of people I need to share the data with. But if you have larger teams, Trello, Asana, CoSchedule, Airtable have all been fantastic for me in the past for going in and recording those analytics and letting people have transparency into what they look like.
What's so cool here is that you are also building a way for people to see what content went live and how it performed. A lot of people never have access to that data. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's great to be able to say, hey, we did a webinar on this in the past. Which type of audience actually attended the webinar and interacted and asked for follow-up information? So we're trying to recreate that success, whether I'm here or not. To your point, they can go in and say, all right, here's the people who actually care about this. And now they can also do follow-up based on that historical data. It's so valuable to have for all aspects of the business.
Well, Savannah, this has been amazing. Thank you for all the insights today. If anyone wants to connect with you online, how do they find you?
The best place is LinkedIn. I'm at Savannah Zimmer, and I would be happy to have conversations about this anytime. It's what I live and breathe.
Again, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. This is a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.